Ugh, what a massive missed opportunity. It had all the right ingredients, but they chose the crappy, easy way out. Let's get to the review. The Incredible Hulk is the second film released in the MCU, as well as the fifth in the timeline order. It's a forgotten movie in the MCU because of it being one of the lowest rated Marvel films and lowest grossing film in the series. Also, there is the fact that the man who played Bruce Banner, Edward Norton, left the project, with Mark Ruffalo coming on to replace him ever since. Everyone loves Mark Ruffalo as the Hulk, and most probably agree he is the best version, but that doesn't mean Norton's was all that bad. In fact, I do enjoy Norton's version of Banner and the Hulk, which leads to the film's disappointment. So let's start off with all the positives, and the first being Edward Norton as Bruce Banner / the Hulk. He does a great job capturing this role and doing his best to keep this film alive and giving it his all throughout the entire film. Norton himself had a considerable amount of creative control when it came to his character, which shows greatly as he is the most interesting character in the film. The first 25 to 30 minutes of this movie are actually pretty good and set up nicely the chaotic world Banner must live in, which is done so perfectly, and it has the best writing of the whole film. The film has a fantastic start that always leaves me with so much hope going into the rest of the film, but then decides to disappoint after that. The action scenes are well done and still look great up to this day. For me personally, I found them all to be memorable and have some great special effects work to go along with it. The final act is cool, with having the most fun and chaotic big villain fight. There are no true emotional stakes behind it, but it feels so grand in scale that it is genuinely exciting to watch. The only thing is, I do feel like it should have been longer. The production design is particularly good, with most of it being shot on location, adding this realisticness to the film, and the character designs are amazing. In the opening of the film, the production design in Brazil had a strong impact on the story. These were some of the toughest scenes to shoot due to being action heavy, but they made significant use of it. The visual effects are very well done. This is a significant upgrade to Ang Lee's Hulk in 2003. I really enjoyed the design to the characters, especially the Hulk being dark green and a little gray with tons of veins popping out of his muscles. He has a distinct and detailed look that I can appreciate, even though I prefer the Mark Ruffalo version. Now we go on to the negatives, and there are a lot of them in this film, starting with the writing. The writing is the biggest downfall because it's supposed to be the structure of the story, and it's just very weak. The dialogue is simply terrible, with some of the most cheesiest and most boring dialogue scenes that felt too on the nose and very ridiculous, which led to moments of bad acting throughout. The film has the most serious tone of all the Marvel movies, so when it tries to go for humor, or when it has these terrible cheesy lines of dialogue, that tone flattens and takes me out of the film. There are numerous scenes that feel so empty and not purposeful to the story, which is backed up by the fact that on the Blu-ray there are 15 to 20 full-length deleted scenes, some of which were partially kept in the film. The final cut of this movie cut out many of those scenes because they had originally planned to make more films where they would slowly reveal these aspects over time, which I understand that logic, but it didn't work in the final product, especially when there is no sequel, and the film does not work on its own. The version they leave you with has so many gaps, neglecting character motivations and the story that would have kept the audience invested in the film. The film's writing also doesn't develop much of the subplots, as they all feel so surface level, which is also due to how many scenes they cut, which could have been at the request of Universal, so that is why this is the only Marvel film under 2 hours. The characters are badly written and feel so surface level, with none of the characters having an arc. Banner is the same character from the beginning to the end of the film, so what was the point? This is also due to the horrific setup and backstories of these characters that try to force these relationships and heartfelt scenes, which I didn't see the slightest amount of emotional attachment to, and I'm a sensitive guy, so that doesn't work. Liv Taylor gives the worst performance in the whole film as Betty Ross, which is a major disappointment as she is a main character in the film and in the Hulk comic book series. The dialogue she is given is some of the worst lines of the film that is such a strong factor as to why her performance is so bad, but also felt out of place in this movie and dragged the movie down quite a bit. The music is also severely lacking, with so much use of inappropriate and god-awful sappy music that felt so disposable and wasted. Most of it is just boring and bland, except in the action scenes it becomes a new score and has some life in it, making these action scenes so much more exciting. Because the story is solid, but is so surface level and doesn't offer much to the film with boring and terribly written characters, the film feels very forgettable and just not as good as I remembered. Action scenes are great, with an awesome opening and pretty cool third act, the Hulk being very satisfying, but those emotionless, great action scenes cannot save this movie, and we're left with a big missed opportunity. I'm giving this film a 4 out of 10. Let me know what you all thought of The Incredible Hulk and where it ranks in your MCU film rankings. I want to know all those things down below in the comment section. Next week in the timeline order, we are going to be talking about the first Thor film, so check it out before next Monday. As always, I will see you all in the next video.